Hey everyone, what's up? Let's talk about Jackie. It's a biographical drama film about Jacqueline Kennedy, former First Lady and wife of iconic US President John F. Kennedy. The film follows the days immediately following the assassination of said president. We see her struggling with grief and trauma, trying to regain her faith, console her two young children, and in some way maintain her husband's legacy and maintain her very own dignity. Now, I really didn't know what to expect from this because it seemed like quite a strange combination of talents. It's directed by acclaimed Chilean director Pablo Larraín, from whom I've only seen a single film up until now, and his filmography really seems to include a lot of very politically charged films, examining certain historical moments from Chile's past. The screenplay is written by Noah Oppenheim, who is known for writing the screenplays for such adaptations of young adult novels as The Maze Runner and Divergent, and the soundtrack is written by Mika Levy, or Mikachu I think as her stage name goes, who has previously written the excellent soundtrack for one of my favorite films of recent memory, the incredibly eerie Under the Skin. Not to mention that it seemed like it was going to be the kind of film that's all about performance and cinematography, and much less about a genuinely riveting story. I mean, just considering that they choose to focus in on such a narrow time frame, I really thought was going to be a hindrance to the narrative. While most of what is presented to us are the events that are unfolding during the week following the assassination, the whole film is basically bookended by an interview that took place precisely a week after said assassination that a reporter took with Mrs. Kennedy for Life magazine. It was the very first interview she ever gave following the incident. And at first I was like, oh god, no, not again. I mean, haven't we seen this like a million times already, the whole interview thing? But strangely enough, here it somehow seems to work for a very simple reason. You see, Jackie was very well known for her extraordinary poise and elegance. She was a first lady the American people looked up to just as much as they did their president. And her extraordinary skill at image creation and myth making, to quote the screenwriter, was unmatchable. And that's I think what's most interesting about the film, and it's why I think the structure really works, is that these people, like the Kennedys, these icons that many people admire, whether the simple people realize it or not, they sure as hell realize that first and foremost they are representing an idea that has to be as clearly defined and as easy to perceive and understand as possible, for it to be able to be an idea that resonates and that has a lasting impact. But of course, when they are not in the public eye and the cameras are off, these icons are just as human as everyone else, with flaws, with fears, with impulses, with desires, and it's so very interesting to see how Jackie's behavior is so very different, like during the interview, which is sort of like the aftermath, it's sort of like the calm after the storm, a time of thoughtful introspection and rumination, during the White House tour, which is something she did back in 1961, which is a time of hope and of prosperity and purpose, and everything in between, like that 1 week after the assassination, which is sort of like a combination of both. The film really highlights the many different personas Jackie had to inhabit, having constantly to shift through her public persona and her private persona, and for this very brief amount of time, actually having to be all of it at once, having to be a griever and a mother for these two innocent fatherless children, and having to be a leader and a mother for an entire nation at the same time. I have to agree with the majority of critics that Natalie Portman's performance is pretty kick-ass. I mean, her posture, her way of speaking, she pretty much nailed this role. And keep in mind, this is still the 60s, this is still a period when television is in its infancy, and people weren't really used to the idea of having cameras all around like we are today. Basically, everyone has a camera in their pocket, right? But back in those days, even for a person as public as Jackie, someone used to all of that attention, she could still get pretty shy and awkward on camera. And you can just really notice like the tactics she uses, like smiling, pausing, talking very slowly as a tactic to relieve stress and to give her more time to think, using a very soft voice. Contrasting that to the interview, where she is basically the exact opposite. I mean, she gets a little feisty every now and then, her voice is much deeper, she doesn't really seem as concerned about finding the right words to express herself, because she can basically add it to this interview as she wishes. She actually says this right off the bat. It's one of the very first things she says to the reporter, like, hey, I'm in control here, I edit this conversation, I get to say what we leave in and leave out. She lets her emotions take control of her every now and then, she really doesn't seem to want to be holding them back. It is a mesmerizing performance, and that's really good because it elevates the movie. I mean, and it's really something that's needed, because there really isn't any external conflict here. It's mostly Jackie being in conflict with herself, with her emotions, with her fears. It's a very introspective film, it's a very atmospheric film, it's more than adequate. I mean, it doesn't overstay its welcome, and it has an excellent soundtrack, which I was not expecting. It's very unique, I never heard anything like it. I mean, that Mika Chu or Mika Kichu or whatever her name is, man, she can really work those somber minor minor strings like it's nobody's business. As a closing thought, I just want to say that I want to dedicate this review to John Hurt. He died just a few days before I'm recording this review, and he is in this movie. He plays a priest. It's quite a compelling character, it's quite a compelling performance, and that's all I want to say. Rest in peace, man, and thanks for all the great performances. And I want to thank you, the viewers, for watching my review, and I want to ask you, what is your favorite biopic? Don't forget to leave your answers down below. If you like this review, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so I can see you later with other reviews. Until then, folks, stay cool, stay awesome, goodbye.